wanted to do a follow-up video about I get on here and then I see a lot of these videos. The Essence Festival happened almost 2 weeks ago, and we're still on this FBA versus African immigrant situation. And I think that it's been a conversation that's been overdue. I made a video a couple of weeks ago, and I talked about not just Africans, but about a lot of immigrants that come here to the United States and they bash Black Americans. And they think that a lot of what they have accomplished since 1964, when the United States allowed them to come here because of civil rights that was passed through the work of Black Americans, they were allowed to come through here without sponsorship from white people in their country and over here. A lot of them would get sponsored through Catholic churches too. A lot of them are priests, and they come through those Catholic churches. But for the first time, they were able to come over here, and since 1964, they have been able to establish a community for themselves, and a lot of them are doing very well. I'm gonna touch on that, but that's over here, and that's just a small subsection of Africans that come here, because I found out something about that too. And this back and forth that's been going on, I'm not saying that it's all on them. You got some Black Americans over here too that I guess that they're now just waking up and realizing that there's been a lot of like hidden online groups, or like dark web sites, dark groups that have been talking about Black Americans while they are over here or even overseas in Africa or in Britain, and it has not been good. All right. And I even touched on that almost 2 weeks ago when I did a video on how when they come here to the United States, all my life I grew up in New York, and I've been down here in the South now for 25 years, and I can count on one hand how many times I have fellowshipped with an African in a predominantly Black church. And I've gone to intermixed churches, all types of churches, but all of my life I've only worshiped within one African family, and that's when we lived up in New York. And I'm not lying, okay? I'm more integrated with the Hispanic community and the Caribbean, West Indian community. We went to church with each other. Yeah, the Hispanic came to the Black church. Caribbean came to the Black American church, but not the African. The Africans, they go to the Catholic churches. They go to the Presbyterians. They go to, a lot of these white Anglo-Saxon Protestant types of churches, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's nothing wrong with that. Some of them go and become Mormons. It's nothing wrong with it. There's a lot of Black American Mormons, but what I'm saying is you would never see them in a traditional Southern Black Baptist church, or even just a Black Baptist church period anywhere here in the United States. I'm not saying that they don't, but I just never came across them. Okay, I used to go to church in Harlem. I used to go to church in Long Island. Okay, I've gone to church in Brooklyn. I've visited churches. I used to live in Queens when I was little. We went to church in Queens, and it was white people, Hispanic people, and Caribbean people. Okay, at one church my parents used to attend to, and I never seen an African in there. I want to let you know that. Now, and that's because the instruction before they come over here is to not intermix with the Black American community, because they look at Black Americans as failures. And so as I'm looking through a lot of these headlines, like 17 hours ago, a Nigerian migrant insults Black Americans. and this happens. 1 day ago, African immigrant attacks Black Americans for defending our lineage. It's just like ongoing. Why Black immigrants have no respect for Black people in America? They look at us as lazy. Let's see. I'm just going through. I'm just going to do a filter search. I'm on YouTube. And I'm just going to do a filter search for this week, okay? About this subject. Okay, 3 days ago, streamed, Black America cannot unify with Black immigrants who disrespect us. This was from the Dennis Sperling podcast. And that one about Nigerian migrant insults Black Americans and this happens, that's from the O'Shea Duke Jackson page. 7 days ago, the African Diaspora News Channel, he's Black American. He's got a 46-minute and 44-second video he streamed live in the you can go and look these up yourself. That's why I'm reading the people's channels, so you can see I'm not lying. African immigrants laugh at FBAs over Essence. You quote unquote gave it away. Then he says, let's set the record straight. Oh, that's gonna be a good one, because I even said something about that in another video. See, Essence Fest came down to connecting with the readers, connecting with the subscribers. Now, what I need to go and do is I need to go and do a search to find out how many African immigrants subscribe to Essence magazine versus how many foundational Black Americans subscribe to Essence magazine, because it was started by 4 foundational Black American men. They don't realize that Susan Taylor, she became the face of Essence as a chief and editor because that she wasn't the only one. Like, there's other ones too. There's Nikki Taylor. There's a couple of other ones that, you know, came before her and after her. But she did a great job, along with Nikki Taylor too. Nikki Taylor did a great job too, being the face of Essence. She's Caribbean, but she found a way to balance out all of our multicultural representations as the diaspora. She did it very well. And I saw another video that said Susan Taylor did things in excellence. And this Essence Festival that was organized a few weeks ago, that was not Black excellence. Sorry, it just wasn't. It was late. It was extremely late. Let's see. 3 days ago, Black Americans versus Haitians. So out of all of these videos that I see, I'm going to say this. Yes, I went to AI, as I always do. But I wanted to, because I want a biased opinion. Okay, I want a third-party opinion on different perspectives that I feel. So I asked AI, I said, who is more successful in the United States between Black Americans and African immigrants? And it said that when comparing Black Americans who are U.S. born and African immigrants in the United States, research generally indicates that African immigrants tend to have a higher socioeconomic attainment, particularly in terms of education and certain economic indicators. So let's break it down. Socioeconomic, that means that there's certain socializations, behaviors that they have, and there are certain economic behaviors that they have, that they are now becoming a more successful group of Black people here in the United States. Now, of course, 60 years with a combination of a lot of these immigrants that come over here, it can never outperform what cotton provided the United States through the free labor of Black Americans, through foundational Black Americans. I always say that, okay? Because cotton allowed the United States to become that nation that everybody wanted to come to. Without cotton, United States would not be where it's at today. This is the free labor of black people. Now, I'm going to say this. I'm not going to disagree with what AI said. You know why I'm going to say that? Because I want to make sure that I make a point. It says that one of the first reasons on why Africans that immigrate into the United States are doing much better than black Americans, you know, it doesn't even mention women. It doesn't even mention anything about African women. It says it's because close to 45% of black African immigrant men, they hold at least a bachelor's degree, which is significantly higher than U.S. born black American men. Okay? I didn't say this. These are statistics. They are pulling this from statistics. Okay? It says that another reason why, it says that family structure. Black African immigrants tend to have a higher marriage rate and are less likely to live in multi-generational households compared to U.S. born black Americans, which can influence household income. Okay, I'm going to say something on that too. To me, I don't see a lot of black African immigrant men that come here to the United States. I don't see them living with their mama. Now, you're going to catch a FBA living with his mama well over into his 50s. Okay? Got children, owe the government money for child support, in arrears, dying alone in nursing homes. I don't see African men dying alone in nursing homes. I just don't. Another reason why, labor force participation. Now, the old trope of Africans calling black Americans lazy. It says their labor force participation. African immigrants generally have a higher labor force participation rate and employment rates in the U.S. in comparison to U.S. born Americans. Now, I don't know if you are familiar with a video that just went viral of an African brother who's lived here now in the United States, and he came to the black American community and he pitched that black American men, y'all need to get together and start opening up your own construction companies, because what happens is Hispanic migrants that come to this country, they come to him on job sites and they speak to him first as an immigrant. Ain't about this. It's about being an immigrant. And they go to him, and I'm gonna plug that video into the comments, like the description, all the information at the bottom. I'm gonna plug that so you can go right to it. He says that they come to him and say, don't hire that lazy black man. I got cousins, I got brothers. He called him, he said, I got Carlos, I got Pedro, I got Julio, and we all ready to work. And he said, I gotta give him the job, because a lot of times that's who's showing up, and they pull their resources together. So, I mean, these are statistics. Now, a lot of our black men back in the day, they were the carpenters, they were the electricians, they were the brick masons. Okay, a lot of these old streets that you see, those streets, especially in the South, a lot of that brickwork, that beautiful brickwork you see in Savannah and Macon and some parts of Atlanta, all that good old time they used to have with free labor, a lot of those bricks were made by black slaves. Okay, not until after civil rights is when a lot of Hispanics started coming here to the South and building. Okay, so, but I can't blame anybody. And you know what? Again, they didn't say anything about African women. Okay, it says that black immigrants contribute, Africans contribute significantly to the U.S. economy through their earnings, taxes, and spending power. They are particularly active in the healthcare industry and STEM. Now, black Americans, now, I will say this, we're still holding it down in the medical field. We still have the HBCUs. We're still, a lot of African immigrants do attend HBCUs. A lot of African immigrants do get into the STEM field through HBCUs. Let's not forget about that. But I think that what is happening is it's the division of the black family. See, their strength is in numbers. Now, I told you that they said that 45% of black African immigrant men hold a bachelor's degree. They never said anything about an African woman. But the statistics on our side is this. I looked it up. It says the Pew Research said that in 2023, and these are all the same Pew Research, okay? 2023, approximately only 23.6% of black men are holding, from 25 years and older, are holding at least a bachelor's degree in comparison to 45% of African men. Now that's a shame. You know why? Because we have HBCUs. What's the problem? What's the problem? And this is another reason why. We are the majority of the black. They are the minority of the minority. That's the problem. You know, I never see a lot of African men getting on social media putting down their African women. Nope. Nope. I don't. And also too, it talked about marriage. Let me tell you where we're at right now as a people. FBA, this for you. It says that approximately, according to the Pew Research, okay, these are all statistics I'm pulling in the same amount of years, okay, these are all relevantly new. Approximately 52% of African immigrant adults in the U.S. are married. Okay, now that's 52%. All right. Oh, the education between the 45% and black men only holding 23.6% of degrees, that's a 21.4% difference. That's bad. That's bad. That's not good. That's not good. Okay? That's bad. It says Africans, 52% of them are married. Now let's see what it say about us. 29 to 31% of black Americans are married. Hold on, let me get back to that. This is sad. This is sad. 30%. Approximately 30% of black adults in the United States are currently married. It says this is lower than the overall marriage rate of all Americans. Okay, you can go to the Pew Research Center. It's free knowledge right there. Okay, and it says that this is lower than the overall marriage rate for all Americans. It says which is around 48%. Additionally, about half of all black adults in the U.S. have never been married, which is significantly higher than the rate for non-black adults. Whew, Jesus. And black men are more likely to marry than black women, and that's because they marry more outside of their race. It says black women are more likely to be divorced, separated, or widowed. And because black women tend to marry black men more, and they tend not to marry out of their race, it is because there is a breakdown in education. And we just saw it. Okay, we're not making comparisons to white. Americans, we're making comparisons to ourselves and to African immigrants. Now, something is wrong. All right? You know, I know where we come from as a people, but what I'm trying to figure out is where are we going? Because it don't look bright. And the numbers is here. Okay? We ain't pulling this out the hat. This is the statistic. What I want to say about the black women being more divorced, separated, and widowed. We're not going to talk about being widowed. Let's talk about divorced and separated. Let's go back to the statistics of black women experiencing domestic violence more in comparison to other groups of women, and we are the minority here in the United States. Okay, that also attributes to that. Not having a job, just one person carrying them bills in that house, because this is what it said, because it said the African man here, he carrying them bills, but it said the black American man, he ain't carrying no bills. Now you can argue, you can make a rebut the Pew Research Center first, then come to me. Now this is still scary. So what I did was I wanted to make a comparison to, now let me see, what did it say? It said 52%, right? We didn't do our calculation. 52 from 30%, 22% difference. 22% difference. The African immigrant, who is the minority of the entire black group here in the United States, is beating us out by 22% in marriage. My God, today. Let's move on. Now, I wanted to also look at other groups to see where our little 30%. Okay, let's see. 54% of white adults in the United States are married. 46% of Hispanics are married in the United States. The highest is of Asian Americans in the United States. It says, according to the Pew Research, it says that between 2024 and 2025, 63% of Asian adults are married. Jane, 30%. They're 30% higher than us. I didn't have to put that in the calculator. I just did it. 30% higher than us as a people. Okay. Now, I also asked Google and AI. I also wanted to know, even though we have our problems, but there's also a flip side to this, okay? And that is, yes, African immigrants do well here in the United States. However, I found out that only a certain percentage of them are able to come over here from Africa. And so I thought about this. We are the minority in the United States, while they are the majority over the continent of Africa. Okay, one of the largest continents on the globe. So I asked, how much ownership does Native Africans have over the continent of Africa? It says that land ownership in Africa is a complex issue shaped by factors including colonial history. We deal with that too. Customary systems and evolving legal frameworks. But it says land ownership by indigenous and local communities. It says that in 19 sub-Saharan African countries studied, indigenous peoples and local communities own or control approximately 16% of the land. There's over 50-something countries in Africa. Okay. See, it only counts for Africa's richest 4. We know who the richest 4 is going to be. One of them is going to be Nigeria. And we were the super minority for almost 500 years being slaves. However, I will say this. I did look that up. How much ownership do Black Americans have in the United States in 2025? It says that According to several factors contribute to understanding Black American ownership in the U.S. in 2025. Our overall wealth. It says that as of the third quarter of 2024, Black Americans collectively held approximately $5.39 trillion in wealth. Based on the Henley and Partners and New World Wealth's 2024 Africa Wealth Report, the total investable wealth held on the African continent in the third quarter of 2024 is approximately $2.5 trillion. 0.5 trillion out of how many countries? Now, y'all need to back up. Y'all need to back up, because we hold now overall wealth for Black people just in the United States is 2.5 trillion. With our low marriage rates, with our lazy folks, okay? And also another thing they said that why Africans tend to do a little bit more better is because they do delineate from African Americans, but that what they do is they assimilate to the majority here. Okay, so that means they go to their churches, they go to their schools, they try to live in their neighborhoods, they socialize with them, they try to intermarry with them if they don't marry within their own race, but they don't have anything really to do with Black Americans. So that's also contributing to their ability to keep collectively their resources, okay, and to strengthen their numbers here. But when you go over there to Africa, baby, it's telling a whole nother story. Statistics don't lie. Now, I got an RT, okay? I got into the FBA, because I'm an FBA. I told you what we ain't doing over here. Okay? Now, I'm going to tell y'all what y'all not doing over there. Because for y'all to have 54 countries and only have 2.5 trillion, while Black Americans are the minority here, and we was held down for 500 years, and yet our overall wealth in the United States is at 5.39 trillion. Same time spans, same time span. I'm not playing no tricks. You go right to AI, Pew Research, and also too, it says that you can go to Henley, L-E-Y, I'm gonna plug it in, and Partners and New World Wealth 2024. Same thing with here. It says that the overall wealth for Black Americans, this is 2024, as of the third quarter. Same thing, it was the third quarter in 2024 for Africa. Third quarter of 2024, and for Black Americans, we have 5.39. So that means that 5.39 trillion minus 2.5 in the whole entire continent. Y'all, stop playing. Stop playing. 2.89. Y'all own Africa. What is going on over there? Why do y'all only have 2.5 trillion in collective wealth as Black people in Africa? And we have 5.39 trillion in wealth over here in the United States. And we lazy. We not getting married to each other. We know, we heard, we saw the story. But see, that's what I'm saying. Even with this whole Essence Festival, what it has done is it has opened up another nuance to what has been going on for so many years. And I'm not gonna say I agree with everything he says, but I'm gonna have to give Tariq Nasheed his flowers, because Tariq Nasheed, Vicky Dillard, okay, let me call these people out. To close this argument out, there's two things that need to happen. Foundational Black Americans, we got a lot of wealth. Black women, stop playing around. Okay, don't die committed to a group of men that are obviously not committed to you. Wake up. Stop drinking the Kool-Aid. You are beautiful. You deserve to be loved. And love may not always come in the package that your mama told you was supposed to come. Corporations die every day. New corporations pick up all the time. You need to look at your love life just like that. I've been married before, years ago. Not divorced. One thing, I've also dated outside of my race. Are you kidding me? Having babies with men who are not committed to you statistically. Okay? That's another thing. See, one thing it did leave out, I believe, that is taken from our collectiveness as a people to strive, is there's a family problem. But what we need to stop doing is creating families without the structure, because that's expanding the prison population. Do you see? It's expanding other mental health issues that we're exposing our children to. They grow up in such a toxic environment between my daddy don't come see me, my mama don't let me see my daddy. Every time they get with each other, they arguing. I stay with my grandma most of the time. They see all of these unhealthy behaviors. When they finally get out your house and they make it, they don't want to invest back into that. They gonna invest into Becky. Becky don't remind them of the fights in the 911 calls and all of the domestic violence that we tend to go through, because we suffer for so much trauma because of other outside isms. But he's not investing his future in that. So if you want to fix a problem that's very fixable, Black women, I remember this young lady who had a podcast on YouTube. She used to say, Black women, protect your womb. You are the master of your womb. Not have the structure to have a family, the household structure. And that means that a ring, education, financial stability. Don't do it. That's what's making us poor. That's what's making us look bad. Y'all keep having these kids you cannot take care of. And it's a demonic behavior. You know, we're not animals. We are smart, beautiful people. It's okay to have one. Have one. But don't go out there and have 4 kids by 3 different baby daddies. And FBA men, why are you gonna go out here and make 9 homes with 12 different women? I want to spread my seed. Baby, you sick. Because a rational person wouldn't think like that. So what I'm committed to do, I want you to be committed to do, my FBA, is when you see something, speak up about it in your church. Have your pastors to start talking to the family. Okay? Have your pastors start talking about love again in the home. Okay? I'm tired of hearing these churches and they sound like corporate boardrooms. They get you pumped up to go to work, but when you leave their congregation, you go back home to an empty house. Especially a lot of our successful Black men and women. Y'all are doing well for the ones that are doing well. There's a lot of them. Look, remember $5.39 trillion of wealth collective, doing well when we leave that church. That's why Pastor Marvin had locked y'all up.